Welcome. The learning theory I chose to focus on this week is social constructivism. Throughout this PowerPoint, I'll be discussing a little bit of the history, the differences this theory has with one another, and finally how social constructivism is implemented within the educational field. To start, we have to understand what social constructivism is. Social constructivism is a variety of cognitive constructivism that emphasizes the collaborative nature of much learning. When you hear the word social, you think of talking and working together. That is what is necessary for social constructivism. Students will work together to solve problems and answer questions. The goal of social constructivism is for learners to problem solve and learn together rather than focus on a set of objectives and learning targets independently. Social constructivism can be dated back to around 1934, where Lev Vygotsky developed it. As stated, the interactions between the learners and their peers on problem solving is vital within the learning theory. Vygotsky believed that learning first happened between the individuals. After that, the learning moved to self-learning, where students could understand the material on their own. While some people do not believe in this theory, due to believing that knowledge is obtained from oneself, it is still a theory practiced and used today. When we think of Vygotsky, another theorist we tend to think of is Piaget. While Vygotsky and Piaget were constructivists, they did have very different beliefs. As you can see in the figure taken from McLeod's article from Simply Psychology, both of these theorists thought on opposite ends of the spectrum when hitting these specific topics. For example, Vygotsky believed heavily in the use of social aspects in theory, while Piaget did not. It is important to know that Piaget focused more on the development within the child, while Vygotsky emphasized the social aspects of development. I was pulled to social constructivism for many reasons. To start, this theory aligns very well with my personal belief in teaching. I think the social aspects of learning and the skills gained there are much more important than a state standard that I'm forced to teach from the district. While I do think it is important to meet goals and standards, I think the developmental impacts that social learning gives a student is much more important. I also like the idea of students being able to work together on a common goal. With social constructivism, students are doing just that. Finally, this theory works well in my mathematics classroom, where we discuss how and why things work on a constant basis rather than memorizing formulas or memorizing tricks. This graphic has many suggestions on how to implement Vygotsky's theories within the classroom. In the next few slides, I'll be breaking down some of them to explain how I'd use them within my own classroom or learning course. Scaffolding is a great tool that can be used in the classroom. With both in-person learning and online learning, students are encouraged to work on smaller, manageable tasks that will lead them to independence. Students will work with an instructor or perhaps a peer who is more knowledgeable than them. The main difference here is that with online learners, they will have to watch presentations or instructional videos on what the tasks are at hand and what their final goal is. An example of this could be finding the formula for a triangle in math class. I would start with a rectangle and work with the students to see that a triangle is half the area of a rectangle. We would work together till they found out that you'd have to multiply the base and height, but then divide by 2. After that, students would be able to independently solve these types of math problems on their own or with their peers. Learning groups can be an essential part of social constructivism. In these groups, teachers will intentionally partner up students who may be smarter in the topic area than other learners who may not. The goal is for learners to teach one another the task at hand. The teachers will be there to answer questions and facilitate the conversations. While this may be more difficult online, instructors can still group students and have them work on Google Meets or even Zoom. This is something I would have to look more into to better prepare myself for the online aspect of learning groups. Dialogue is super important in the way your students will interact. We need to constantly be asking our students, how did you get that answer? Or why does this answer work and not another method? We need to foster the reasoning behind any subject matter we teach. We also need to make sure our students are talking the way as well. By making students talk in this open-ended type of way, students maybe feel more inclined to talk with one another and work through problems as a group versus on their own. This will also help facilitate proper dialogue and proper language use within any of your subjects. As we discussed in this presentation, Vygotsky developed social constructivism where he focused on the social interaction that learners have. These social interactions will lead to a more independent development within the learner. While some people may not agree with social constructivism, I believe that this is a powerful tool that will foster problem-solving skills and communication skills within learners, which is more important in the real world, I believe. Thank you for your time.